Hey there, future fashion designers! You know very well that whatever you have as your goal, work is required to get it and to keep it. So let's do the work so that you can do the male croquis. Let's go on ahead and get set up with our oval and our straight lines. You know we need about 9 heads in general for all of our croquis, and sometimes we add 10 heads. So start off with your straight line and your oval. Measure off those spaces until you have at least 9 heads, and then our toe is going to actually end up closer to 10 heads. But at least you want to mark off your 9 heads. Place your numbers and then your labels. Remember, Horny Alex. So, here we go. Your fellow students came up with this for you. Horny Alex was caught French kissing Carrie Ann's grandmother. That is for head, apex, waist, crotch, fingertip. Next is knees, calf, ankle, and ground. All right, 1.5 is the same location for our shoulders, and then you have 1 headspace on the left and 1 headspace on the right. So it's a total of 2 headspaces. Go ahead and put in your neck, just make it straighter and wider. And then for the sides of your neck, you're going to come down underneath that shoulder guideline so that you can have a nice shoulder slope. And, of course, curving at the edges of your shoulders. Next up, we are going to put our waist at 3.5. So it's longer than the female figure. So in between 3 and 4, pop in that waist. And the waist is 1.5 head spaces. So not just 1, but 1.5. And there we have 1.5 measured, and you are going to now drag the sides down. Next, we're going to put in the chest, and it's going to be at about 2.5. So it's a little lower than the female figure, and just make it more angled. Also, at the edges of our chest for the male figure, that's where we have the nipple. Next up, we are going to go down to 4.5. That is where we will have the crotch for the male figure. And it can even be around 4 3/4. It really does depend on the height and the market. So 4.5 is more for a junior male. 4 3/4 is for an adult male.
Oops.
Now you're simply going to drag the waist straight down. You have a little bit of a hip bone, but mostly it's fairly straight down. Up next is going to be our briefs. So it's just a dash and then 2 diagonal lines. Then you frown over on the left and the right. So it's wider than the bikini bottoms for our female and more angled. Now what we want to do is put in our belly button at the waist, and then next up you can add a little bit of thickness to your neck so that he does feel a little bit more masculine. But if you're doing an asexual croquis, you don't have to add the thickness. And then add in your collarbone. Go on ahead and square off the head, make it a little bit more masculine by making it more angled and a tiny bit wider than our original oval. And now you can really see your male croquis start to come to life. All right, now find the center of each leg and drag it down all the way to number 9. Drag it down even to number 10, because remember our toe is going to be around 9 3/4 or 10-ish. So at least drag it down to 9. That's going to get you to the ankle, and then we'll draw in the toe. Now this guy is gonna have a bit of a bow in his leg. So right around 7, we're gonna go on ahead and start to curve and make it aim slightly left, like a parenthesis facing the left side. So right around 7, you're gonna give it a bit of a curve. That's too much. Let me take some of that away. And we're going to give both legs as our guidelines right at 7, a bit of a curve toward the inside. All right, we're gonna place our knee at 6.5. Go on ahead and put in your knee socket. Make sure that it's nice and round. And then that ankle socket is going to end up at 9. Because like I said, our male front view is going to end up with a toe that is about 9 3/4 or 10. All right, we're gonna just pull out the thigh area. And the only difference here from the female is that it's a little wider and more angled. So we're just showing a bit more muscle. If you are doing a gender neutral croquis, then you don't have to make it super muscular. Now we're gonna slow things down here so we can really get this kneecap. So at the inside of the leg, come around that kneecap and down. So emphasize that with a nice parenthesis shape. And now underneath your kneecap, parenthesis faces the opposite way. So that parenthesis faces right, this one faces left. Okay, so that's how you get kneecap and then shin. Back of our calf muscle is higher. So make sure that that parenthesis is nice and high, right at about 6.5. That's where it starts. Now, parenthesis facing the opposite way to finish that calf muscle. And that's how you get your male croquis to have much more definition with his muscle than the female croquis. So it's just a series of parentheses. Now we simply just get ready to drag these parentheses down further, all the way down to number 9, which is around our ankle. And simply because we made a curve in our guideline, now we get that bowed effect. So from the knee to ankle, we curved it. Remember, 6 to number 9 was the bottom of our leg. And we redrew that leg guideline so that it has more of a parenthesis. That's how you get that bow leg. All right, now let's clean things up a bit. Let's put in our kneecap so it's more of a straight and a more angled U shape. It's like a half of a letter U. And then you can put a bit of a diagonal line on the edges, just like I did there. And as you erase a bit and clean it up, you will see you have some definition for your knee and your shin and then the back of that calf muscle. Nicely done. Let's do some more. Next, we do our foot, and we know the inside of our leg has the longer toe and the outside of the leg has the shorter toe. So we are just angling the male foot more. Not a smile, but it's more angled line segments. And the male foot's a bit wider than the female. Here I'm showing the right side more angled, the left side a little less. You can choose. Okay, next up is the guidelines for our arms. And they are not touching the thigh, so I have room for the hand. And this is, once again, a front view male croquis. Now that we have that in place, what we want to go on ahead and do is put in our elbow socket, that's at the waist, and our wrist socket, that's at the crotch. All right, now we're going to come around the shoulder with a frown, so slightly to the right and slightly to the left of our guideline. And underneath, around the area of the bottom of our chest, put in the beginning of the underarm. Aim it towards your wrist socket, and I'm just giving a slight curve so we can see the bicep. But again, if you're not doing a super masculine figure, you don't have to have definition that way. short parenthesis for the lower portion of our forearm. And we can erase in the middle there so that you can see that is the elbow where it would bend. Put in a little dash. All right, let's take a look at that hand. Diagonal line to the right and then now to the left for the thumb. And now on the outer side, I put 2 more line segments. Just make it more angled, so instead of a J, make it much more angled, so not super round. Then you will have your male hand, and it's wider than the female hand. Again, it finishes around mid-thigh. Next up, we repeat for the left arm, so give a little bit of a parenthesis shape for that muscle if you want that definition. Make sure the underarm aims up toward the bottom of your chest. And once you drag those parentheses down to the elbow, start with your short parenthesis for the elbow area. And drag down with those parenthesis shapes to your wrist socket. Okay, line segments are going to be more angled again for this left hand. Shorter on the thumb side, longer on the fingertip side. And instead of a J shape, remember to angle those fingers to make it feel wider. I'm going to make my finger a bit longer here on that left side so that it's more symmetrical with the right side. And just like I just drew in that guideline to help me, you can always do that. Now, if you do want to give more muscle definition, you can do a frown shape that ends up in a parenthesis, and that'll give you your 6-pack. So you want to go on ahead and do that 3 times on the left and right side. You don't have to add this detail, of course, but you absolutely can if you want to give more muscle definition. Now, if you want even more definition for those muscles and the arms, you can add that. So I'm going to extend this arm upward more and pull out the sides of the body and then taper it in. That gives him the feeling of having more muscular, like wings almost. And you can see when you make that more triangle shape right underneath the chest area, it brings out even more muscle. But you don't have to do this. This is just one way of doing your male croquis. That's it for today. I'm super excited about you, and I cannot wait to see you next time. Happy sketching! Remember, do the work. It's definitely required, but once you do the work, you'll be able to get and keep whatever it is that you personally want.